Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining's Investment Trends with me, Paul Harris. Today we're talking about silver. Outcrop Silver and Gold trades on the TSXV under the ticker OCG and on the OTCQX under the ticker OCGSF. Outcrop Gold and Silver is advancing Santa Ana, which is one of the highest grade primary silver deposits in the world, and it's not where you might think. It's in Colombia. And joining me to tell me all about it is Ian Harris, the CEO. Ian, welcome to Kitco.
Thank you, Paul. Funny I have to come to Beaver Creek to come see you when we live in the same town.
I know, we're both very busy. Now, Ian, Santa Ana is shaping up to be one of the highest grade primary silver deposits in the world. These are very scarce things. In some ways, that's unsurprising because you're in an historical district which has produced high-grade precious metals for more than 500 years. The Spanish were exploiting silver there. Silver coins from that were one of the most famous shipwrecks of the Spanish Empire. Tell us a little bit about the background to the property. How did Outcrop obtain it?
Yeah, so Outcrop, exactly. I mean, I like that you know your history. There was a time this area was the third largest producer of silver for a time period of the Spanish Empire, right? But I guess everybody likes gold. There was a company called Miranda Gold that acquired the project from Red Eagle. Joe, who was the previous CEO, is an exploration geologist. And you've even been there, I think, at Porphy, where the first drill hole and they hit silver, right? And it doesn't take very much argentite to go a very long way, and all of a sudden they started seeing this is a significant silver deposit. And so that's where it all began, and that was about year 2021, I'm guessing, and things advanced very quickly from there to become, the initial resource in 2023.
Now, as you mentioned, you hosted me on a site visit in December last year, and it was evident that there's a lot of silver in the drill core. You can see it's visually distinct, and the core is quite weighty. You've got an initial resource which is relatively modest at about 24 million ounces of gold equivalent at a 614 grams per tonne silver equivalent, plus another 13.5 million ounces of inferred resources. So you're well on the way to getting towards that magic 100 million ounces resource number. That initial resource was based on 40,000 meters of drilling, if I remember correctly. You've got a big drill campaign going on now. So talk us a little bit about what's the near-term plan with this drilling campaign. Where do you want to get to?
So your numbers are great and your memory is amazing. The initial resource was 6 veins, and all in the northeastern section of the trend. And when you visited, the number one goal was demonstrate to market that this thing can get bigger. We basically had a 17-kilometer trend, and only basically about a third of the northern section had even been drilled. And none of the southern section had been drilled. And our big goal was get south and hit discoveries. Since then, we've had an additional 6 discoveries along that so that we can prove out this is where the additional resources go. That was the number one goal, show that primary silver continues, high grade continues. At the very southern end at Mangos, we hit 18 meters at 992 silver equivalent. And within, we just put out some releases in the middle section, continue to show very high grade silver. So our biggest, but things have shifted now. Now we have de-risked the project. I'm a mining engineer by background. Guillermo is a resource geologist. We're very much about de-risking. We want to know where it comes from. We don't like taking risks. We know exactly which veins are going to produce the ounces for us, how much they cost per meter, how many ounces we get per meter, and we're trying to get those ounces for as cheap as possible is the way we're attacking it. And right now it's all about resource drilling. We know where we've gone. Now we guys have to drill it out. We are doing about 30,000 meters. This year is our new updated target. We originally were going to do 24, and last year we did about 18,000 meters. So we've done some significant amounts, so you can do the math. The original was about 50,000 meters on the original. A lot of it was wasted meter as they're trying to understand the overall deposit. 6 veins. We've now have an additional 6 veins, and we're doing another 50,000 meters on it with doing an updated resource in the first quarter of next year.
That was one of the things that really came through to me during the site visit is the fact that Guillermo Hernandez, your VP of Exploration, you've really got a handle on the geological model and therefore the predictability of the drilling to be able to hit the veins and define them relatively quickly and efficiently and build the resource there. I imagine one of the questions that a lot of investors have is, and you're a mining engineer, so this is a great one for you, are there enough high-grade veins there to put a mining plan around? It's perhaps a bit preliminary to to answer that question, but when do you think you'll be in a position to answer that question?
So when will I be in a position to answer that in a technical document, I think is the correct question, but it's obviously the vision and the pathway is thinking about how this can become a mine, without a doubt. So in terms of technical data, we want to make sure we're getting close or break that 100 million ounce number, because if you think about it, if you can break 100 million, now you're talking about the production of about 8, 7, maybe 10 million ounces a year. You're already looking at being one of the 20th largest silver producers in the world. You're now creating a project that can be a backbone of a new silver mid-tier or a very important project, right? It's going to be significant. Despite today it's looking small, because we've developed this pathway, you can see how it can get much bigger. And if you look at Colombia, if you look at Boritica, if you look at Marmato, if you look at Silencio, these are all projects that were a series of narrow high-grade veins. You look at projects such as Lagué, which used to be with Mineros and now is with Soma, had multiple mine portals that were going to a centralized plant. It's not uncommon. And one of the advantages, obviously, the cost structure that you have in Colombia make that super doable. But what it does take is a slow ramp up of production, because you have to work up the additional working phases. We've seen a lot of projects fail where they go really big from the beginning and then they can't feed their mill, right? You're better off doing a staged approach. And most of those projects were staged. They started at smaller productions and ramped up their productions. So our goal is, while we're looking at a larger scale project, what is the optimal size overall? 1,000, 1,500 tons per day. What does that look like? You know, multiple portals. We are called Outcrop, so that makes it a whole lot easier, because you literally can put in multiple mine mouths that are really close to your faces that you're going to be producing this material. But we also have the advantage that you could start small and ramp up your production, which is something we're doing in the background right now, and it's executing very well.
Well, that's one of the benefits of high grade, isn't it? You don't need a massive plant.
It decouples you from scale. That's what I say. When you have, and it's not just high grade, it's high grade, extremely high recovery, and amazing concentrate that you could smelt directly if you wanted to. We could produce silver without cyanide on our project, right? Our concentrate grades are similar to many Merrill-Crowe grades I've seen. So you could smelt the material directly and produce Odore at site without cyanide. And that helps a lot on the economics.
I just want to follow up a little bit on metallurgy, because one of the things that narrow vein silver deposits are famous for is perhaps complex metallurgy. Tell us a little bit about that and why yours is not complex.
Well, we have, it is truly, I say the mineralogy is what makes this deposit so amazing, right? I mean, not only does it bring the grade, but it brings the metallurgy. Because I think about 80% of the silver is argentite, it floats. And the other one is 60% of the gold is associated with the argentite, right? So it recovers through flotation. We get of the gold, for example, we get a 98% recovery, and it's about 2/3 go in the float con, and about 1/3 goes in the gravity con. Where in silver, I think it's about 80-90% go in the flotation, about 10% is captured in the gravity. But it is an extremely simple circuit. It's and our whole circuit to date, obviously it will be optimized, is a single pass flotation and a single pass gravity. And that's all you need to do. You don't have to clean up the concentrate. It's beautifully clean and no deteriorous metals, none of the nasties, and it would produce as a minimum, a precious metal concentrate. There's a difference. That would go to a refinery. It wouldn't necessarily have to go to a smelter. So the terms, we've already gotten initial quotes of 98% payable on a concentrate, which is amazing, right? So we get to keep the value throughout the process, which helps a lot. And again, decouples it from scale. So you can start smaller, high margin project, and just scale it up as you can work up the additional working phases.
Low capex. Now, this is investment trend, so let's talk a bit more about the investment case. Silver stocks are famous for their beta. With silver at, let's say, $41 per ounce, your stock is up 78% over the past year. Your market cap is now about, let's say, $150 million Canadian. You're obviously getting more interest. What has all of this done for your valuation relative to some of your peers?
Okay, so when you visited, we were trying to come up with the story that I can tell today. And I wanted to say, we can create value. For every dollar I spend, I could be creating $4 in value based on our current valuation, our previous valuation, which is based on dollars per ounce in the ground. A true value story, so that we would break the dilution problem. I wanted that value story. We're now in it, right? We are going to drill, increase our resource. Our valuation today is based on our resource, and independent of silver price, our valuation is going to go up. But obviously we trade to a beta to silver, and that's why it's gotten so explosive. But I think that we will outperform because we have a two-win proposition. We are going to grow our resource, which is the base for our valuation, and that multiplier based on silver price is also increasing. So we're really in a really kind of a perfect storm for us, that stars are aligning, that everything is going great. And I also think things in Colombia are also going well.
I want to talk about Colombia at the end of our conversation, but before we get there, primary silver deposits and projects are very, very rare. The past year or so, we've seen 3 transactions that totaled an aggregate of, $5 billion of M&A transaction. You're a mining engineer. You're obviously equipped to take Santa Ana into production. Is that the aim of the company, or you want to get it to a size where somebody's just got to take you out because of that high grade?
I think that we have a massive advantage, is that we're going to de-risk it to the point that somebody else wants it or we can build it, right? So we have no problem. And I think in terms of how would I build this? How do we get this into production? Put everything into place. And one of the biggest ones we started from day one, I was happy that you got to experience it, is create that strong relationship locally, right? They had recently put up their letters. L of Fallen represented the legacy and the future of silver. They now identify as a part of the project. And because of that, the regional government of Tolima now have brought us to the table. They want, everybody wants to be associated with a good project, right? So they've gotten there, they've gotten behind it. We've now had 2 meetings this year with the governor on how can we fast track and get this thing moving forward with a government that's very supportive, because the majority of the permits moving forward will come out of the regional government level. So that is critically important, right? But if somebody else is going to come in, they want to see a project that they can build, right? They want to see something that's de-risked. And I think one of the errors is to say, we're going to get it to this point and then we're going to sell it. Because normally we don't get to pick when we get the offer. That's the truth of the matter, right? And sometimes I've seen it where they get the mine finance in place and then they get bought out. And sometimes it's after the first resource they get bought out. And that risk aversion is determined by the buyers, not by the sellers. But again, as long as you think in terms, how can this become a mine? That is the perspective, and we could absolutely do it, especially if we can start something smaller and then start to scale it. Even while we're doing the engineering studies in the background, right, to define the overall size, it's not that big of a deal to build your first $10 million project, and just say, why would I spend $10 million in the engineering when I could just do the test, right? Like a bulk size, a bulk sample, or a pilot scale. And so that's the direction that we're going to want to go, because it's obviously easier to scale than it is to build something from scratch.
Well, if history repeats itself, it would suggest you do have to put it into production. Those 3 transactions I mentioned were all assets that had gone into production. Now, with the results you're getting, it's easy to see why Eric Sprott, the legendary mining investor, has invested in the company 3 times. He's got a 20.6% shareholding now, I believe.
Correct.
With your stock at a 52-week high, does it make sense to raise more money now and get really more or even more aggressive on the drilling going forward?
That's a tough question. And we've seen a lot of companies actually get clobbered that raised a whole lot of money. Things are getting excited and they filled their boots up. And I can understand. It's like a feast or famine. And it's been really tough to raise money for a real long period of time. So when you have the ability to raise a significant amount of money, you do it. But we have about $5 million in the bank. We have about $4 million worth of warrants that are in the money and are due by the 22nd of this month. So I think we'll be able to pull that in. And that gives us runway to achieve these major catalysts. One of the things that I said I want to do is what we're doing. I wanted to break out of our 52-week, even 2-year high, right? To make sure that people say, this is a valuation that's being developed because the resource is coming. A larger resource is coming, and therefore our valuation should go up, and we're going to have a value proposition for market. And because we have a little bit, hey, if market wants to wait until the resource comes out before that valuation change occurs, we have a little bit more ability to say when. But obviously things have changed dramatically. We're definitely getting more phone calls than before of a lot of interest of people wanting to be able to do a financing for the company. But that allows us to be a little bit more selective and be smart. We're on a pathway that reduces dilution to our shareholders, creates value, and provides a beta to silver price. And so that way we can be smart in how we continue to advance on financing.
If people want to invest in primary silver exploration, that usually comes with accepting some country risk because you're looking at jurisdictions such as Mexico, Peru, Bolivia. Colombia obviously also comes with some country risk. There's a presidential election next year. What are some of the things you're keeping an eye on regarding the presidential election and who potentially will form the next government in Colombia?
So first of all, I'm a believer that jurisdiction is a false comfort blanket, whatever you want to call it, for investors. That really it takes understanding what it takes to build a mine, right? And I explained for us, the formula is be strong locally, and that starts building political will because people want to be associated with good things, right? And you can really look where mines really been built over the last 10 years have not been the best jurisdictions in the world, but it's been the teams to be able to get it done. But either way, I also think that there's a perception about Colombia, despite looking at Eris, also probably at a 52-week high, or Collective also performing extremely well in the country, and now us also performing well. But the people are saying, wait, Colombia doesn't look as bad as I thought it was, but we're coming up to elections. I believe it's May is the first round with an expectation of a new president in August. We're basically in a lame duck period, and there's an expectation. Some of the candidates, as we've seen, are much more pro-development, right? This presidency has been very much against oil and coal, but that's 50% of the exports of the country. So there's going to be a need to continue to push forward the economy. I think it might get choppy. There might be a lot of rhetoric that comes out, but overall, I'm very optimistic that our timing is very well. We want to have a very robust project, well defined, that we can present to an incoming a national government. But on a regional level, we still have another 3 years with this governor, and we have massive support, and we're going to continue to work on that relationship because it's really the one that's most important to us, even though nationally it seems to affect our valuation the most.
Absolutely. To finish, Ian, what are some of the catalysts we can expect to see out of Outcrop over the next 12 months or so?
So I already feel like we're in the middle of one. If you look at other companies, they normally start transitioning towards their updated resource around 6 months ahead of time. So because we have one coming out very early in next year, we're already in that period of time where our valuation should be changing. But the big catalyst would be when that resource estimate comes out. We're targeting very early in Q1 of next year. With a significant increase, people can do the number of veins and the amount of drilling that we've done, and we'll continue to see strong reporting. We do about once or twice a month. We put out a release with our drilling, so a very strong news flow. I think we've got a very nice pathway moving forward.
Excellent. Well, Outcrop Silver and Gold trades on the TSXV under the OCG and on the OTCQX in the United States under OCGSF. Ian Harris, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Paul.
And that's all for Investment Trends. I'm Paul Harris, and this is Kitco Mining.